Greetings, dear friends. We are sincerely happy to welcome you again. Today we will talk with the esteemed Igor Mikhailovich Danilov.
Hello.
Igor Mikhailovich, we touched upon a very important topic in the previous video. We discussed how much vital energy people spend on resentment, anger, and hatred, often being unaware of that, because they lose the true purpose of their lives. They miss and lose this very understanding of who their true selves are and how valuable their life is. The phrase which is said in the previous video was very memorable and really resonated, that to forgive means not to take away life. First of all, not to deprive oneself of life, not to deprive oneself of the future, because when we forgive, we really liberate ourselves and multiply love within ourselves. Moreover, this love multiplies in another person too, because when you love, you cannot do evil to another person. Today, we would like to consider one more situation. People often complain that when they actually try to do good to another person, when they share their love, when they share information about the creative society or share the truth and the genuine primordial knowledge, they face a situation where people do not hear them. And certainly, a thought from consciousness creeps into their heads. What a shame! You make an effort, you do your best for people, but everything is useless, they don't hear you. What can be done about this kind of resentment? It sort of has a slight touch of despondency. It's a resentment that people don't hear what one says.
First of all, we should figure out what we want from people. What does it mean they don't hear? If people listen to you, it means they already hear you, don't they?
Yes, sure.
There turns out to be such a little paradox here. What does a person want? To be exalted or thanked? Or how should they show that they have heard him? What is it supposed to look like? In the understanding of the one who resents. And what does resents mean? That's already a very interesting question, isn't it?
Yes. Does it mean that there are already certain scenarios and expectations in one's head?
Quite right. So it means that a person already with a certain program, let's say, begins to talk to another person, and he already expects a certain stereotypical reaction from that person, which he already has in his consciousness, right? Even before he started the conversation. But people are different. That is one side. The other side is, who and what speaks within you? And whom do you speak to, right? People are different. They have different interests. Let's put it simply. Let's say a person's car breaks down on the road. He has small children, something else. The car has broken down. He's got a flat tire. So he is changing that tire. And at that time, you drive up and sincerely want to help him. And you immediately start telling him about some spiritual values. At that time, when his car has broken down, he has children in the car. He's in a hurry. And he also has a stomach ache or a headache. What is he supposed to do? He is grateful to you for your help.
To abandon everything earthly?
Yes, in some way he is grateful to you for the information.
Yes, exactly.
But how was he supposed to react? A simple question. To drop everything and follow you? A question is, where to? Everyone will say, to the spiritual world. Great. But if you yourself are really going towards the spiritual world, if you are full of love, and you speak out of love, first of all, not to his demon, not to his consciousness, and if you do not want servility from that person, along with power over him through your demon, then you convey information from soul to soul, as people say, meaning you transfer from your personality to his personality. Those tools that can help him, his personality, to gain power over the demon that controls him, so to say. Then you don't want anything from him. You've done what you had to do. You've got the knowledge, and you have conveyed it. And that's it. Your mission is completed. Then it is already the mission of that person as personality, either to accept the knowledge and to defeat Satan in himself, to gain life, life eternal, or to listen to Satan, who will be skeptical about this information, who will label you as another sectarian or fanatic of some religion, and simply a bore, who clings to him and tells him, broadcasts about God, so to say, about God's love, how to love and so on, with one's own rules. After all, for many centuries, people have been told about one and then another religion, but the world hasn't changed for the better. Over time, we have only seen people become angrier, more cunning, and as the devil began to rule in this world, everyone can actually see this. And naturally, if one lives in this society in certain, not quite human conditions, whether a person likes it or not, he becomes a part of this world. And of course, it is enough for us to be born in an average family, in an average country, and we will become an average slave of Satan. And we cannot get away from that. And then someone begins to tell us about the truth. But what about skepticism in a person? What about, let's say, the self-preservation instinct of his Satan in the head? If we do not take it all into account and expect, actually, a good question arises here. What do we expect from such a person, or the person to whom we are conveying information? Will he start giving us a standing ovation, kissing our hands, or doing something else? A simple question, right?
Yes, exactly.
Also, my friends, let's keep in mind one more thing. Who and through whom, and first and foremost, to whom do we convey information, even firmly following the spiritual path? We use our verbal tool, which belongs to our consciousness, which, in turn, makes up a part and belongs to the system itself. Or, speaking in religious terms, by means of our tongue, controlled by the demon, who is actually a part of a whole legion of demons, including Satan as well, we convey information about the personality's spiritual salvation, in the first place, to the demon in the other human. Well, how will the demon react? Will he give a standing ovation? Does that benefit him? That's the answer for you. However, whether this demon wants it or not, he will bring that information to personality anyway. Even for him to rage, my friend, or to label you as a sectarian or a fanatic of some religion, he still has to make a request, first of all, to personality. And for personality, this is a chance. And you shouldn't expect anything from anyone. Upon receiving the knowledge, my friend, your job is to pass it on to others without expecting any applause or gratitude for that. On the contrary, let's compare it with the creative society. Nowadays, there are many volunteers all over the world, and thank God every day there are more and more such volunteers who spread information about what our world could be, and that we can really save our planet. Just look how sectarian it sounds. We will save the planet. How will other people's consciousness react to such a statement? Of those people who really know nothing about the actual climate change and what really awaits humanity in the near future. After all, billions of people live behind an information wall and have zero knowledge of the real events that are taking place. They do not even know what is happening in their neighboring country. All they see is what is outside their window. It got a little worse the year before last year, a little worse last year, and even worse this year. But various sources of information say that this is a norm because the norm is changing, and the person calms down. And at this point, someone comes and says, sorry, there is a big problem with the climate, and we can change it only in the creative society. Plus, in the creative society, since we already need to change something, then let's change it for the better. And there are many benefits that you will get. What does a person, first of all, a demon in his head, think about? What information will the demon convey to a human as personality? These are some crooks again. Sectarians, revolutionaries, or something else. How many promises were given to people in this world after the revolutions were carried out? That everything will be fair and fine, that people will have authority, and they will live better. That was done many times, and many know about it. But people have good memory. This is really so. Everyone remembers that after each revolution, life became harder, tougher, and worse, and people had to defend at least a little bit of their rights, at least a little bit of freedom, literally, before the elections. But again, not even all politicians fulfilled what they promised. In those countries that have existed for a long time, where political elections were held repeatedly, without wars, without any shocks, and without revolutions, people have won at least some rights for themselves, and at least some traditions have developed, which made people's lives at least a little bit easier. And here we come and tell them about the creative society. This sounds like a fairy tale. Does an average person really understand that this is reality? Does he possess knowledge that a replicator is not science fiction, but quite a real thing, and that self-government is a natural state for humanity, while we are being told that people are unable to rule the world, and there must be authority in every country? Also, if we take a sensible look in the consumerist format when all of us are divided, we will not survive without authority. This is really true. It's not a paradox, friends. I'll give you a simple example. No matter what country you live in, imagine that now, right now, people gain authority in this country for real. Even if we start building the creative society in any single country, while there are predators around. Do you know what I would compare this to? It's like a lonely sheep grazing in a meadow, when there are a lot of forests around the meadow, and hungry wolves behind every tree. How long do you think this sheep will live? This is indeed so. Why? Because the consumerist format is a forest full of wild beasts that are really fighting for their territory. They are fighting for survival. And actually, the consumerist format cannot exist in any other way. We cannot do anything in a single country. We would just lose that country. Therefore, it is said that nothing will work without authority. Indeed, someone has to take responsibility. Whether this is good or not, that's another thing. But there should be a certain group that has authority in its own interests, definitely. Then they fight for their interests and at the same time for staying in power in their country for as long as possible. In this regard, they have to make some concessions to people as well. That's the way our world exists. And this process is natural. Is it good or bad? History will show. If God grants and we build the creative society. But this is true, and this is reality. So when we talk about the creative society, how will a person with such information perceive it without knowing more? Negatively, of course. And if we expect him to drop everything and run along with us to no one knows where in order to build the creative society, that's naive. Why? Because in fact, at the initial information stages, and we are at the first information stage now, we are just trying to convey this information to people and explain it from different perspectives, to present it from different angles, so that people gradually adapt, see the benefits, and understand that this is absolutely realistic. Well, in the second, no less important stage, so to say, is the information about climate change. The information we convey. This is also one of the stages. This is also very important. People should know the truth. They should not be scared. If they are scared, Panic will not lead to anything good. You can scare people, but fear always leads to a reciprocal aggression. This should also be understood. Whereas honest and truthful information that a person receives contributes to people's sanity. When a person begins to think and understand that indeed, in the consumerist format, to concentrate maximum effort on scientists and give them the opportunity to really work without limiting funds. Well, this is possible only in the creative society. I'll put it simply, just look, friends. In the world today, huge sums, enormous sums of money are spent on war, on weapons, on fighting each other. It's like those wolves in the forest, growing their teeth and claws. What for? To protect their territory. And that is natural. If somebody becomes weaker, somebody else's animal will come and take your territory. This is a natural and normal process in the consumerist format. That's why so much money is spent on weapons. But as of today, excuse me, literally, pennies are spent on just a few laboratories which study volcanoes. We have hundreds of active volcanoes, I would say. Somewhere around 1,500, and very few volcano observatories with very meager budgets. Tell me, will these people be able to study the problem of volcanology deeply and seriously enough if they can only observe a few volcanoes out of their huge number? The same goes for seismology and many other fields. This is the truth of life. This is reality. Considering how we, nowadays, treat confrontation with each other, if we as people spent as much money as we spend on killing each other, or just in case, if we are suddenly attacked, we will be strong. If we had a guarantee that no one will attack anyone, and that in general, there can be no war a priori, while this is possible only in the creative society, we would spend those funds on science. In your opinion, would our scientists worldwide be able to develop different methods and ways to counteract that very seismic activity, or to prevent the most serious and dangerous volcanic eruptions? I'll say yes. Today, there are scientists with excellent ideas in the field of that very volcanology. And I was pleased to hear that people are working on this issue, let's say, out of sheer enthusiasm, without serious financial support. Yet they are solving global issues, and they are on the right track. They already begin to understand the issues of degassing those volcanoes and how to do it properly without destroying our planet. They understand that, apparently, it is also possible to control seismic activity, and this is realistic. Yes, it isn't cheap. Yes, it's a global process, and it requires the most serious approach to it. Moreover, on a global scale, which is absolutely impossible under the consumerist format, yet it is absolutely the norm in the creative society. Again, there are people, scientists, true scientists, who already know by now how to counteract this global warming and about the true causes of this warming. And they know how to solve this issue on a global scale. So far, they are all scattered. They are united only by us, the creative society. But they exist, and their ideas are quite workable. Those are not just hypotheses or some theoretical developments that have no grounds. I would put it this way. Those are serious developments already, which are profound and mathematically correct. It is clear that everything needs to be developed and sustained. It is clear that there is still a lot of work to be done. But under what conditions do these people work? With what kind of funding? And they are not even talked about. That's where the paradox is. You see? These people are almost unknown. Instead, we know those who support war, promote the killing of millions of people, So far, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of innocent people. Those ones, yes, they are talked about everywhere. On the one hand, this is good. On the other hand, this is bad. What's the difference? They are being talked about. They already attract our attention and collect our vril. Meanwhile, true scientists have no support. Those scientists who can save the whole world, the lives of all of us. Is that fair? Everyone will say, no, it's not fair. Please tell me, friends, do people know about this information? No, they don't. I'll say it again. Because these scientists are not shown on mainstream channels, because the truth is not talked about. Why? Because there are those who benefit from making money even on the climate. There are those who even profiteer on people starving. They benefit from this. And they support it and have the opportunity to support it because they are able to control the media and therefore the demons in our heads, such as the truth of life. And this is precisely the consumerist format. But when we talk about the creative society, to a layman, to a person who doesn't have enough information, let's say, even in that religious aspect, he doesn't know the truth. He doesn't know the history of religions. He doesn't know what the prophets actually brought. He knows what he is told by priests who do not know the truth themselves. Tell me, such a person who came to any religion, and in reality he gets nothing except fanaticism, which is hammered into his head in order to turn him into a slave and doesn't lead to salvation, and the person doesn't feel spiritual awakening inside. Being in almost any of the religions. So tell me, will he believe in various religious interpretations? No. Or another person who sees that the environment is being taken care of across the world. Billions of dollars are being spent on fighting climate change. Huge amounts of money are being spent for many years, and many people work at various enterprises that have environmental standards, supposedly in a fight for the climate. And it's unprofitable for them because it affects their wages. But they understand, yes, they are fighting climate change. Meanwhile, any person sees those changes which are taking place. And it is getting worse and worse. Something is happening that has never happened in their region. Sometimes, when reading the news or surfing social media, a person even comes across those disasters which are increasing. Thus, he understands that the climate is changing. It is changing fast, and that's a threat. But he has a subconscious question, sort of somewhere at a distance. Why do they charge me money for the environment, for fighting climate change? Limit our enterprises in their capabilities. Even fight against cows, forcing us to eat grasshoppers for the sake of the future, while the situation is getting worse. Tell me, will such a person with these mindsets happily welcome information about the creative society while not knowing a lot of things and not having this information? A simple question. Here, one more answer is hidden. It is deep and has a serious meaning, friends. When we as volunteers of the creative society are now at the initial stage of informing, yes, people understand us, they hear us. Many even support and share our views, and many join our ranks. However, just look at who hears us and who joins our ranks. As a rule, those are people who are much more advanced than others, who do not live by their selfishness, but look at the world around them with their eyes open. Those are people capable, let's say, of analyzing cause and effect relationships. Yet, are there many people in our world who have such an ability? That's the answer for you. Why does that very theory of 6 handshakes not work? It doesn't work, friends, precisely because when our participants encounter inert people who do not have real, truthful information about the situation in the world and how realistic it is to build the creative society, and what privileges a person will receive. So when he doesn't know this, when he faces this information, what happens in him from the demon is indignation and rejection of this information. Therefore, we should do a lot of work, give various information, so that a person himself realizes and understands that the creative society is not just the only way out and salvation for the entire humanity. Again, it sounds somewhat sectarian, doesn't it? But that it is a real way out. And so far, it is the only one. There is no alternative yet. Not a single one. No one has offered a real way out, but it is available in the creative society. And if we change the consumerist format or alter it in order to survive as the whole planet, then at the same time it is possible to improve everyone's life, and that's good, right? And here, friends, is where the answer is hidden as to why at the first stage we see extreme opposition to the creative society. Various articles and TV programs that are against the creative society, where they compare us to a sect, where they put all kinds of labels on us. Again, trying to show the creative society in a negative light. Because of what? And who is doing that? A simple question. We know that many articles, and especially TV programs, are paid for, and people spend a lot of money on this in order to maintain their positions, their current comfortable positions, and they regard the creative society as a threat to themselves. Therefore, people spend money because an article in a more or less popular newspaper costs at least 15,000 euros. And there are many articles already. Just do the math, friends. Somewhere, they agreed on a cheaper price. Somewhere, on a more expensive one. And someone is paying for that. Of course, we know who is doing that. And we know why, and what the real reason is. But they don't spend money on people. They don't spend money to save humanity. However, they spend money to oppose the creative society simply because they are afraid of it, not realizing that this is the only organization that actually exists today, on a purely volunteer basis, with an open heart, so that everyone can survive, including them, and so that their descendants continue living on this planet. It's just that people do not understand the reality. They are far from it. But they are very worried about their future and their positions. Absolutely the same goes for Alatra. How long and how often have they thrown mud at Alatra? Just because we repeat the words that our prophets brought here, just because we talk about the truth which Jesus Christ and the best of people, the Prophet Muhammad, brought. And now, thanks to you, friends, thanks to the volunteers of Alatra, more and more people are learning the truth, what we are talking about, and what the primordial knowledge really is. It is not us who brought the primordial knowledge by inventing, developing, establishing a sect, and promoting Alatra. No, friends, the primordial knowledge was sent down by God Himself, through Jesus Christ, through the Prophet Muhammad, and many, many others before them, so that people would have at least some chance and at least some opportunity to come home, to come to God, to come into eternity. However, we humans, as soon as we received the knowledge, we immediately altered it in our own favor to benefit our personal interests in a struggle for domination over others, that is, a demon, who interfered in the process of conveying the knowledge, created religions out of it, which for thousands of years have been controlling people's minds. And for thousands of years, there have been wars and strife. There have been various persecutions of each other, and to this day, people have not united. Meanwhile, Alatra is merely telling the truth, and it is so much hated, especially by the priests. I speak the truth and call everything by its proper name. Just imagine. Ministers of religious organizations pay huge money, which you bring to them, friends, as support for the Lord's temples, as tribute to the Lord God, so to say, that very tithe, and a lot more.
Alms.
You bring your alms, and then This money goes to those priests to pay to various newspapers and various TV programs created through journalists, while journalists are just people. It is just business to them. And let me digress here. While filming one of the TV programs where they knowingly slinged mud at us, journalists, normal guys, who were paid by the priests to release yet another smear piece about us, openly told one of our volunteers, "Do not take offense. We will be slinging mud. We were paid money for that. Big money. By the priests." And they named who paid and how much. They said, "Treat this as dark PR. Dark PR is also good." That is, journalists are more honest than those priests for whom alatra is stuck in their throats. So they sling mud on us while disdaining nothing. In one country, they call us a project of intelligence agencies of another country, while in that country, they call us a project of intelligence agencies of the first country. And they throw us back and forth, saying that we are the project of some intelligence agencies. Some have already accused poor Soros of having something to do with us. Well, he's a rich man. He is not poor. God bless him. But they have already started accusing him too. Others accuse us of favoring one country than another one. My friends, in fact, we are for God. We are for God's love. And we are for the creative society. In this case, I'm talking about myself as an alatra participant and as a volunteer of the creative society. Do you know what else is interesting? It is that by trying to sling mud at the creative society, they start mixing it with the fact that alatra is also involved. You see, they use alatra as a tool to downplay a certain good project, right? As if alatra were something dirty and you would get dirty too. Meanwhile, in some countries, in more than one, they try to use such dirty tricks, even in their fight on the political arena, smearing a politician for giving an interview to alatra, while alatra is a sect. In alatra, we talk about God. We talk about the truth that your prophets brought and the knowledge on which those very priests who pour all this dirt and arrange these smear campaigns have built a religion on the same knowledge that was brought by the prophets, by their prophet whom they serve, on the true knowledge that is described in alatra. And they use that as something bad and dirty. Just look at how rotten our consumerist format is, in the literal sense of the word. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. What I'm talking about, friends, is that all this very dirt that is being poured on us as alatra international public movement and the Creative Society international public movement, this is really wonderful, friends. And I'm very pleased with the result we have achieved. Many people will say, "How is that possible?" But I'll give you a straightforward answer. If they started praising us everywhere, if priests of all denominations and all religions supported alatra, I would be the first to leave alatra. That would mean it is no longer alive. It means that Satan has defeated it. There is already so much filth in it, and it's already going in the wrong direction, being controlled by those same priests. If the media now started praising the creative society from all screens and saying that it is wonderful, I would be the first to leave at this stage. That would mean that the creative society is already absolutely controlled and managed and leads to power. A small group of people, or someone who is very interested, who has managed to disorganize us, who has managed to deceive us all, to seize power over our minds, and to make our volunteering absolutely manageable in his own interests. This is true, friends, because Satan always opposes the truth. And all these consumerist laws, unwritten laws, not human ones, but those by which that pack of wolves lives, the pack that grows its fangs and claws. All of that lives according to certain unwritten laws. And if at the first stage of informing, something begins to be praised and exalted, it means that it is obviously controlled and false, and it will never work for the benefit of people. Yes, the time will come, and, well, of course, if we make it in time, if the majority of people in this world hears us, and we have a chance to build the creative society and save this planet, then the time will come when everyone will start praising it, when they will understand the essence of the creative society, and then there will be no or almost no people who object. There will still be someone who is dissatisfied and indignant about something, such as this world. Sorry, we live under control, let's say, of matter, and representatives of matter. So there is always some kind of negativity here. But when people talk about us widely and praise us at the first stages, it means that all this is not true. While in the future, everyone will praise. Why? Because it is true. If we look at the history of development of those very religions, at that truth which was brought into this world, it always faced serious opposition at the first stage of informing. People always opposed it and never accepted it eagerly, just because it is the truth. That's the point. If we take a red-hot sword and put it in water, the water will sizzle. But later on, everything will be balanced. The same is in our case. We have brought changes and heat into this world. And so far, it is burning some people. It is sizzling and boiling. They resist and pour filth on us. But if we focus on that filth, if we become weaker, then it means they have won and lost. Just look at what the paradox is. If now, it's really funny, at least it amuses me. I understand that many will become sad, but let's look at it from the other side, as they say. In Odessa, on the Provost market, why don't we look at it from the other side of the counter? So I invite everyone to my side of the counter. If they go ahead and triumph over us now, no matter whether it applies to Allatra or the Creative Society, and we simply close both Allatra and the Creative Society and somehow dissolve ourselves. That's it. They have won. Those who... Actually, they are not enemies. They just haven't understood the essence. And those people who are afraid, who haven't understood the essence, would win. So what would happen next? And I have a question. What are they going to do with the climate, Cerberus? That's a question for them. Yes, of course, we would die together with them. But you know, it is fun at least. Not really?
Not really.
It's not really fun for Tatiana, and to be honest, for me as well. But we do not want it to be that way. And we do not want them to die either. Those who simply do not understand the essence. Because in fact, if you go ahead and talk to them individually, they are all good people. They just don't know the truth. That is why we are here together with you, friends, trying to resist the Cerberus so that he is not given free rein, so that he is not given the opportunity to roam free. So far, we are trying because there are very, very few of us. Despite the millions of people around the world, we are few. So far, we are just a drop in this human ocean. But we are the hottest drop and the purest one. And we will be able to heat up other drops and make them just as pure. And maybe our ocean will come to life. Thank you, friends. There is only one way to do this, through love and respect for each other. So, friends, let's just love each other. Thank you.
Powerful words. Thank you, Igor Mikhailovich.
Thank you, friends. Peace be with you. And victory.